we have our, I want to say it right. We have our creamy cashew and leek sauce over fettuccine or pasta of choice. We're going to do some Meyer lemon tofu crisps and some spinach. If you happen to get Bloomsdale spinach, you're lucky ducky today. I didn't get any Bloomsdale spinach today, but I did get some fresh spinach. And we're also going to do a honey roasted pineapple with a sesame cashew crunch. Oh my gosh. If you've opened that bag yet, I hope you froze that bag. So a couple things to begin before we begin. Turn your oven on to 400. If you haven't washed your leeks yet, please do. Also, your spinach, you want to get that ready to go as well. And if you have not cooked your pasta yet, just turn on a pot of water or at least have it ready so that you can cook it at the end of class. You may serve the dish right at the end of the class, or you may still have to cook the pasta. Depends on you.
Oh, Laura, also just one little housekeeping thing. If there's questions as we go, feel free. You can drop them in the chat and I'll be looking for them, or raise your hand and I'll get to you in an opportune moment, or just unmute yourself and shout it out if you think that's a good strategy. Thanks.
Excellent. Yeah, good questions are, I have allergies, I don't like something. Can you give me substitutes? And we always like feedback. So please feel free to send feedback to me or to the Neelys or whatever. It's always good to hear. We got some good feedback last week. In fact, one of the things we heard was people will use these recipes again. So that's important to know because that is what we want to do, is to teach you things that you'll use again. Next week is our last week in the series, and we're going to have a Moroccan class. I was just in Morocco in October. I did a bike tour through the country. And it seems like everywhere you go, they have tangine. And so I really became a student of tangine, and we're going to do a Moroccan tangine next week. We'll go over at the end of the class, maybe some of the special things that we will do in the class. We're also going to make bread during class, the street bread that they make. I know, we're going to actually raise it, the whole thing during class. So class might be a little bit longer, but we'll fit it into that hour and a half for sure. And we're going to start preserved lemons, which take a number of weeks to do. And preserved lemons that you make yourself are fantastic compared to sometimes they're just a little too biting. Anyways, so we'll talk all about that at the end of the class. And let's begin today.
Laura, there's a question from Alpha. Is it okay to use convection mode in the oven at 375?
Well, convection mode, for something like a fruit, I wouldn't know enough to answer that question correctly. Convection mode for me is often good when you're baking something that you want a nice crispy crust on. And so obviously it would dry out a little bit of the pineapple, which might turn out to be a very nice thing. But I couldn't answer that question. So if you do put it on convection, you let us know, because maybe we'll all do it next time. So, all right. So we're going to start off with our tofu. We're going to start pressing our tofu. And I have for you today, I'll take the overhead shot, please, some Hodo soy tofu. This is a company from the East Bay, a well-known company. I bought this at Bianchini's. And again, if I use Bianchini's, that's our grocery store here in Portola Valley. So you may not find Hodo soy, but what you can find in your market, I'm pretty sure, is extra firm. And when we're doing something like this, extra firm is what we want. Now, I would caution you to not use one of these in the aseptic packages. Even if it says extra firm, it still says silken. And it's not really the best tofu to use when we're trying to get something chewy. So avoid something in the aseptic package. Go for something more on this level and get into your package. If you have water in it, you want to get rid of the water, pour it in the sink or pour it in whatever, and just get access to your tofu. Now, tofu is like foie gras. It'll absorb the flavors of what you put onto it. It's made from soybeans. You make a milk and then it congeals into a soybean. Next week, if you choose to do the vegetarian vegan option, we're going to use tempeh. Tempeh is made from whole soybeans. Tofu is made from a liquid that congeals. If you don't want to do vegan next week, you don't have to. We'll do lamb as well. But definitely high in protein. And, we'll start there. There's been all kinds of controversies about tofu and things over the years. And if you have any questions about that, we can address that later on in class. But what we want to do is get our tofu so that we can press it and remove the water. And that will help us get more of something to chew on. So where we want to cut it up into, I would say no more than a 1/2 inch thick and maybe a little less. So everybody's got a different cube of tofu and you can figure out how to do that, how to get it at about a 1/2 an inch. So for this particular tofu, the hodo, I'm going to cut it in half down the center. And that leaves me with about a 1/2 inch thick. Right? If an inch is there's the digit, our first full digit, a 1/2 inch would be a 1/2 a digit. And I'm going to leave it like that. And I think that's plenty for pressing for me. Now you may have to cut it into different, 4 pieces. Some of the chunks, you got to cut them in 4. So you make that call to about a 1/2 inch or a little less in thickness. And then take a clean cloth and try to say that 5 times fast. Oh, and maybe I should have a glass of Neely wine to do it again. Hey, how about that? Have a little sip. So clean cloth, and we'll put the tofu down on the cloth. And then I don't have a lot of tofu myself, so I'm going to use the same cloth. You could use the same or a different one to fold over my tofu. Put it on a cutting board or something flat. It could be a baking sheet. It could be a plate. And then I'm going to put something flat also on top of that. So it could be a plate, it could be a baking sheet, it could be a cutting board. And then I want to weigh that down. And so anything heavy, the bottle of olive oil you have, I've just got a bowl with some dried fruit in it and other bowls. And I'm just going to put that right on top. And I'm going to move that off to the side. And what we're doing here is we are pressing the tofu. And we press the tofu to remove the extra water to give us a more chewy, less watery consistency. So extra firm is really your best bet when we're looking for more meaty tofu. And pressing it gives it even a better chance at really taking on a crisp. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is go into the pineapple. Now, some of you may have done this already. We had the instructions to do it ahead of time, and that just gives you more time to have a sip of Neely wine if you don't have to do a Neely of Bee Block Chardonnay if you don't have to do this step with the pineapple. And when we're looking for a pineapple, I like to go and sniff the bottom. I know it looks a little whatever, but give it a sniff if you can smell some fruitiness. Try to compare which one might be more fruity. If it's starting to smell fermented, though, and sometimes pineapples do get that in the store, you don't want that one, right? You don't want that kind of like almost zingy smell. You want a sweet smell when you're looking for a pineapple. And I'm just going to cut the top right off. And I'm going to cut the bottom right off. And then I'm going to take my pineapple and cut straight down, giving it a little kind of turn around the corners, the ends of the pineapple. I want to take off enough. I want to take off enough to take that green off, but I don't want to take so much off that I'm wasting a lot of my pineapple. So if you take the skin off, you're still going to be left with a pineapple that has eyes. And one of the best ways to cut the eyes is cut them in a group. So you can cut your eyes in like a diagonal by inserting your knife alongside that group of eyes and then coming back the other way to remove the eyes. So we can do that. And for time's sake, especially because we did start a little late, we can do that with the whole pineapple, or you can do that with half the pineapple. If you think you're going to bake the whole thing, then you're going to need a pretty big baking dish. and you'll need to do the whole thing. But let's see how much I get. And I'm just going to ask if anyone, how everyone's meal went last week, if they have anything they want to share about it. How many people do we have on this call, Lucy?
About a dozen.
Oh, about a dozen. All right, fantastic. So great to have everybody here.
And hey, Laura, while people are cutting the eyes out of their pineapple, I don't mean to heap on the technical stuff, but it looks like we lost the stove shot again. I don't know if we'll need that this class.
Well, we do need that. So while people are doing that, that is weird. So I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that I don't hit the, okay, I know I'm being,
Recorded.
I know that I'm being recorded. So let me try that while everyone's doing their eyes. Let's see. I'm going to go in again, because that's the only thing I can think. Somehow, if you don't hit yes, I know I'm being recorded, they just shut the meeting off. So you're going to let me in when it comes through.
Indeed.
Or maybe it's something. See, now it's waiting to come on. I'll show you. So I wonder if they've got some new thing that I'm not aware of. Well, let's just try that one more time. Well, you guys are all catching up on the. Let's see if it goes in. Yeah, that's the one thing I saw on the camera. And then I think this is what happened last week. We tried to get back on and it didn't go. So, I have a very unique setup, everybody who's out there listening in Zoom land. I have 3 cameras, if you haven't noticed. Last week, we only had 2, and we might only have 2 this week. But because of that, I'm kind of unique because I'm one person who logs in 3 times. And up to now, we've had no problem because I do this in corporate classes all the time. In fact, if your corporation's ever looking for some cooking classes, I'm ready to do that for you. But yeah, I wonder if, because it's not now it's doing the same thing. It's not letting me log on. I don't quite understand why that would be. So how else could I maybe do that? How about if I joined a meeting directly? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to now we got all kinds of technical issues here. Let's see. Nope. Well, I'm going to try to do that again later. I guess I cannot. I'm going to just try to do that when we get back to the stove, so we stay focused. All right. So once you get the eyes out, or almost all the eyes, what we're going to do is we're going to cut down through the top, basically avoiding the core. So I'm going to cut it into 4. And I'm going to avoid the core. Then the core is good to put into water, and you can make fruit water out of it. Lovely thing to do with that. You can just infuse water, and fruit water is a great way if you're looking to cut down on your soda consumption. If you're one of those soda drinkers, 2023 resolution, drink less soda. Think about fruit water. And you save that core and just insert it into some water. And then with the pineapple, I want slices. So you can cut your slices any way you want, but I want about an inch, 1/2 inch thick slices of pineapple. And you can do it however you might want. And I think I'm only going to do half of my pineapple because I have a pan that will assist about half of it. So you do what works for you. And then get your honey and a bowl and a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to mix that up. Try one more time. Let's see if I can get in. Okay. Unable to connect. Make sure you have connected to the internet and your connection to Zoom is not blocked. Yeah, there's got to be some kind of blocking happening here that I'm going to have to follow up for next class. All right. We'll see. If I don't get the stove shot today, we're going to play to the stove as we did before.
We'll make it through.
All right, we will make it through. So we're going to line any kind of pan with our fruit. So I've got a baking dish, and I would choose some kind of a ceramic baking dish or glass baking dish over a metal pan, certainly not one that's aluminum, because aluminum and acid never go well together. But always better to do something like this in a glass dish or ceramic dish. And I'll just put it down there evenly. And then I've got a cup of some local honey that I got from the farmer's market. It's not a cup, I've got about a half cup of local honey. And I'm going to add into that 2 tablespoons of olive oil. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And again, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, has a smoke point, or to where it starts to smoke, of 375 to 425. So if it is filtered, you can saute with it, because the average temperature that we're cooking at, I mean, in the oven it's 400, usually 355 to 365. It's where you have an unfiltered olive oil, and whisk that honey and the oil together. It's when you have an unfiltered olive oil, a nice expensive bottle of olive oil, maybe not, something you got from the farmer's market. Something that has maybe, again, it's not filtered, so it's got particles in it that will drop the temperature of the smoke point. So that's why you want unfiltered olive oil and to saute with, and then use your, you want filtered olive oil to saute with. And then save your unfiltered olive oils or your more expensive olive oils for salad dressings and things you don't cook with. Yeah, I'm not sure why it doesn't connect. It connects and then it loses the connection. So we're going to have to practice that, ladies, before next week. All right, so I'm actually going to do something a little sneaky. I'm going to add a little bit of chili pepper. I'm going to add a few hot pepper flakes to my, because I just think that's going to sound good to my honey, but you don't have to. Some like it hot. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drizzle this on top of our pineapple. Honey and olive oil mixed in. And of course, what you want to do also is mix it in with your hands, right? So I should have told you wash your hands. I didn't tell you wash your hands. Make sure you wash your hands before you cook. Right?
That looks
mix
sticky.
That. It is sticky. Ooh, it looks good. All right. And then we're going to put that in our 400-degree oven for about 25 minutes. So let's all do that right now.
Laura, do you want to try turning off the third device on and off and on, just to see if it could work again?
Oh, well, that's true. Let me try. Okay, let me shut down my phone. I'll do that.
Worth a shot.
It is worth a shot. And then I can maybe hit that thing, because I did see it say, do you want it? Do you want to record? Okay, so I'm going to throw this in the oven.
Beautiful.
You're going to throw it in the oven. Very simple, nice dish. We should never forget about fruit for dessert, especially if you are like me and you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar you eat. And I'm definitely trying to reduce the amount of sugar I eat. In fact, I'm even doing dry-ish January this year, this month.
Dry-ish, huh?
I'm doing dry. If George Soros, or not Soros, Santos can be Jew-ish, I can do dry-ish. But we don't do it on the weekends. So here's to Neely Winery, little bit of Bee Block Chardonnay. All right, and we'll turn on our that. We're going to turn back our phone on. And I'm going to see what everybody is doing. We're going to prepare now our leek sauce, and I just want to see what the rest of the crowd is doing. Some people are staring at me. Who's staring? Oh, wow, we got a bunch of little chicklets out there. Look at those guys. How come you guys aren't cooking? Yeah, you're just watching. All right, you can watch today, but next week you got to cook, okay? You guys going to cook next week? Yeah, why not? All right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start working on our leek sauce. And what I have here is my leeks soaking in a bowl of water. And a bowl of water will help loosen up those, oftentimes you'll see dirt hanging out like underneath a leaf and underneath another leaf. So, cut off the dark green parts, leave the light green and the white, submerge it into some water, and just let it sit for about 20 minutes or something. It's just it's the opposite of the tofu. We're trying to get we're enlivening our vegetable by soaking it in water. Vegetable cells do something that I wish my skin would do, which is if you lie in a bathtub, if you put your leek in a bathtub, it absorbs the water, right? And it fluffs up the lettuce. But unfortunately, we don't do that. But so that way it will be a nice way to just clean out all those little areas of dirt.
So it's
that
cleaning
are hiding.
it and plumping it up or hydrating it.
Right. And wouldn't it be lovely if we could do the same? All right, so let's see. Here we go. Can we go into here? Now, is it going to cut through to you? Oh, good. Okay, it got through, Lucy. So I'm going to come in.
Great.
And let's see what happens. I'm going to say, got it. I'm going to turn it upside down. Oh, shoot. Okay. No audio. Come on, baby. You gotta come through for me here. All these technical details.
Come on, stove shot.
I'm just gonna do it this way and see. Do we have a stove shot?
Yes.
Oh, good. And it's the right. Okay. All right.
We have a stove shot.
We have a stove shot, and hopefully it will. Let's get it the right way. And all right, gives everybody a chance. Okay, so we're going to cut our leeks up into just small, across lengthwise, I'd say into about 1/2-inch pieces. So remember that anytime you have anything that rolls, like this leek could, you want to turn it over the other way so it doesn't roll. Why do I not want my leek rolling around my cutting board as I'm cutting it?
Is this a riddle?
Well, because I want to not, cut my finger, right? So if something rolls around like a carrot, you're setting yourself up for some danger. So you always want to cut yourself a base, or you always want to assume that you're going to cut yourself. I think that's a good way to do it. If you still got any green, I'm taking off some of the darker green. We need about 1.5 cups for this. And the best bet for this would be the light green part. So if you find that your leek is big and you're going to have more than 1.5 cups, you can save the extra leek for stock or for anything else. But for this particular dish, or if you think you might want more sauce, you can double it to 3 cups or even 2. But for the recipe, it says 1.5 cups. So slice yourself up about 1.5 cups of leek, and we'll get that guy going. So yeah, make sure that things aren't rolling around your cutting board. You should assume you're going to cut yourself. And if you do, you'll be more aware of not cutting yourself. So I've got a nice little mix of leeks here. I've got more than 1.5 cups. So I think I'm going to, because it's, I'm solo cooking here, I'm going to keep to 1.5 cups. If you've got more people, you can definitely add more people. And we're going to get a pot for our sauce. So the pot that I'm using today is kind of a smaller saucepan. It's not a huge saucepan. I like La Creuset, excuse me, I like All Clad for a lot of reasons, and I'm happy to talk about it later, but we'll keep that for in the back of your head if you want to, if you're in the market for some new product. We've got the stove shot here that hopefully is on. It's on that way, and I'm going to add about a couple tablespoons of well, no, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to add a little oil. I'm going to add the sliced leek. Yeah, I'm going to add about a cup and a half of the sliced leek into the pan. So not too big of a pan, and better you want a saucepan. You don't want a saute pan. Now, if all you have is a saute pan, use a saute pan. But the thing about a saucepan is the way that the edges, kind of hold liquid in more. A saute pan will let moisture move out of the pan. So by having edges that go up is a benefit to making a sauce, right? Because we want the liquid to stay in. And to that, I'm going to add a cup of stock. And this is where you can have fun. You can certainly use vegetable stock, homemade or store-bought. If for any reason all you have is chicken and this isn't, we're not vegan purists, so you can use whatever kind of stock you would like, but please use some kind of stock rather than water because you'll get more flavor. Now, if you just use water, we're not going to come after you, but stock will always give just a little bit more flavor, and about a cup. So don't tell the vegan gods out there, but I actually made some turkey stock from Thanksgiving, and I'm using that up because I put it in my freezer. A couple stock, and then a tablespoon or two of, oh, guess what? Neely Bee Block Chardonnay. So put a little bit in the pot, put a little bit in your glass, and let's have a little toast. I'm back looking at me again, so I don't know where everybody is, but
they're cooking.
So this Bee Block Chardonnay is classic. It's been growing on the hills of Portola Valley for years. And it's always a winner. It's got such good flavor. Are we just lucky? Or, it seems like such a prize, the Bee Block Chardonnay. Am I waxing poetic too much? Or?
We are lucky, but the site was also selected because it's a good site for Chardonnay. So it was also strategic. Yeah.
Now, before I keep talking about that, we want to put some garlic in that pan too. So I say 3 garlic cloves, and you might have it already minced. I've been blabbing and I don't have mine minced. So I'm going to do a quick thing, and I'm going to say, but you know what? I don't have time to mince it. But I am going to whip this sauce up. So I don't really have to mince mincing would be good for allowing the garlic to, disperse more. But if I'm kind of stuck on time, I'm just going to cut the top off of my garlic, and I'm just going to give it a rough cut. And I've got 3 big cloves, so I'm only going to use 3, but you use as much garlic as you like, about 4 cloves, medium-sized cloves. And, all the produce now is so big. Have you noticed that, the strawberries are huge, and the leeks are huge, and the green onions are huge? And that's because they're getting more water into it and basically selling us more weight. And that's a problem in today's, food, because actually, if you add more water to things, we lose the flavor. So when I'm looking for leeks and when I'm looking for shallots and strawberries, I try to look for the smaller ones, not the larger ones. The larger ones are usually just diluted with water. And they sell it to us so that they get a higher price per pound.
Rascals.
Those little rascals. A little salt and pepper too into your pots. So here I've just got some good kosher salt. I think last week we talked about the difference between kosher salt and Morton salt, and how if you ever try a little pepper. And if your stock, I think I'm going to turn, let's see, where's it? I'm going to change. I'm going to put this over on this side so it's closer. Actually, no, I'm going to leave my pot over on this side so that the heat doesn't shut the camera off. Oh, what's this? later, I'm going to say. Okay. And what we want to do is turn it down to low. So we want the leeks to cook for about 15 minutes. And it turns out we've got about 15 minutes left on our pineapple too. So with the leeks, and if the recipe says too, if you don't have leeks, you can always use onions for this dish too. You can use any kind of allium that you would like. You want the moisture to stick around for 15 minutes, but at the end, the goal is to not have much moisture left. So this is where you have to kind of pay attention to what's happening on your stove. You can notice on mine that you can see it's not cooking that strongly. A low simmer is what we're going for, and about 15 minutes of time. And so again, in our pot, we've got our leeks, about 1.5 cups. We have a dash or two of Bee Block Chardonnay. We have stock, garlic, salt, and pepper.
Mm-hmm. Cheers to that.
We might as well drain our, here's to that. We might as well drain our cashews. If you did soak your cashews overnight, you get a star. If you do not, that's fine. Don't worry. I have about 1/2 cup of cashews.
They're so cute.
They're cashew cute. They're cashew. Anyways, I don't know. The reason why you would soak your nuts and wash them beforehand is to enliven them, wake them up, and make them more creamy, because the moisture will make them creamier. If for any reason you didn't soak them, you can still do the dish. And I'm just going to pour out that water and strain it in a fine strainer, and we'll put that off to the side too. All right, so let's see. Our leek sauce is going. Our cashews are drained. Let's look at our pineapple. Let's just look at our pineapple, see what's happening in there. That looks good. Everything's good on that. I want to see what you guys are doing. I'm going to turn back the camera to see what everybody's doing and if everyone's with me. I think you probably, look at it. I got some waving going on.
Got some thumbs up.
I got some thumbs up. Things are starting to smell good. Make sure you look at your leeks one more time, that they're cooking, but not too fast and not too slow, right? And if at the end you still have water, then we'll just boil it off, but that's good. Okay, so we're going to move on to our lemon brags. Lemon brags is going to be our accent seasoning. It's nothing that you have to do, but it's fun, and it also introduces us to maybe something new in our kitchens. And cooking classes are all about learning something new. So we showed you yesterday, we've got some Bragg's amino acids. Let's see, here we go. We got the overhead shot. Bragg's amino acids, which is made from soy, but it is a non-fermented soy sauce. It doesn't ferment, I'm sure, a year. Like classic soy sauces actually ferment a year, believe it or not, in kegs. And I know that because I've made classic soy sauce before. But what happens with this non-fermented Bragg's is it is a less strong flavor. And soy sauce is wonderful. One of the reasons why soy sauce is wonderful is because it gives us umami, that rich, deep, dark, meaty kind of experience we get eating things like beef, umami, that savory flavor, the concept that comes from Japanese cooking, the fifth taste, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami. So soy gives us that, which is one of its wonderful characteristics. And as we look to reduce the amount of meat we eat, we have to consider umami, because umami gives us some of that stuff that we love in meat, which is that deep, rich flavor. So whether you have soy sauce today or whether you have Bragg's, if you tried something new, take a little bit of it. What do I say? I said probably a tablespoon and a tablespoon, right? Yeah, a tablespoon and a tablespoon. So it's soy sauce, lemon juice, and like a toasted sesame oil that goes into something else are kind of like they're like the three amigos. They go really well onto anything. Certainly we could add toasted sesame if we wanted to this too. But today we're doing two amigos. We're going to do a little bit of Bragg's aminos, about a tablespoon. And then I'm going to squeeze in about a tablespoon of lemon. And I have both. Today I have Meyer lemon and I have regular lemon. There's Meyer lemons all over bianchinis, and certainly as the citrus season comes, Meyer lemon is very important. Is a wonderful addition. It's not very important. It's a wonderful addition because it's a less pungent, less sour lemon. So it's a little bit more refined as a lemon goes. That's why they cost more money. And if you don't find it, you can certainly use a regular lemon, but it gives it a nice, kind of a different way to receive lemon without being so puckering, right? And you can just mix that around and you've got a nice drizzle for your tofu. And taste it. See if you want a little more salt or a little more zing. Good. Definitely can take that. Okay. So we're going to move on to getting our tofu together now. And I'm going to remove the things it's been pressing with. So if you came on late, we were pressing our tofu. If you haven't pressed your tofu, I would keep going on this part of this process, but just take a few pieces and then maybe you can press the rest of it later. If you did not press your tofu, just slice it into about a 1/2 inch thick and dab it up with a little water, with a towel so that you can pick up some of the. Did it work?
Did it work?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is wet. The towel's wet. The tofu's dry. Hey.
It worked.
It worked. So look at your leeks. Make sure you're still simmering, but not boiling too hard. And we'll take our tofu. And now you can cut it into any shape you want. So I'm going to cut it into, I like cutting things into triangles because I think that triangles are sexy. So the way I'm going to cut it into triangles, I'm going to take 2 pieces and I'm going to turn them into squares, right? So that they're even. And then I'm going to cut those squares in half into triangle. So any shape is fine, but things that are uneven, right? The uneven numbers are sexier. They taught us this in culinary school. Uneven numbers are sexier than even numbers. To the eye, they're more attractive, shall we say, because they keep you, instead of going back and forth, 1, 2, 1, 2, I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that somehow stimulates my brain more. So it's a fun way to think about, like, do I garnish something with 3 raspberries or 2?
3.
Well, of course you'd do it with 3 because it is more attractive to the eye. All right, so I'm just going to use half my tofu right now because we're doing that. And then we're going to get cornstarch and some garlic powder, if you have that, in a bowl. And what we're going to do is put about a 1/4 cup of cornstarch into a small bowl. I've already got mine here. So 1/4 cup of cornstarch. You could use potato starch. You could use kudzu, right? What you're doing is creating a opportunity for the tofu to become crispy. And then I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt into that cornstarch and about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, if you don't have garlic powder, you can use onion powder. You don't have to use any powder. If you would like to get some umami into that breading, you could add some mushroom powder. I actually have some mushroom powder from Trader Joe's. It's not on your recipe, but just, you can do a lot of different things. And look at this Trader Joe's mushroom powder, which also has salt. They call it multi-purpose umami because mushrooms are one of the things that has umami in the plant kingdom. And umami comes from glutamic acid, and glutamic acid is found certainly in meat, but often in certain kinds of foods, such as mushrooms, tomato, eggplant, soy sauce, Parmesan cheese. And so as we reduce meat, we want to think about things that have glutamic acid or umami in it. And then you just want to mix that up with a spoon or a whisk or whatever you got. It smells good. What am I smelling? What are you smelling? We're smelling our leeks. I'm going to look at my leeks back on the stove here. We still got good. Oh, here we are. Yeah. Yeah, I think it has to do with the recording. That's why that camera. So we have to make sure that I always hit that recording. Yes, so that it doesn't shut it off. And we'll let those leeks continue. And then I'm just going to take a plate. You can take anything. You can use your cutting board, but it is nice to keep a clean cutting board. So try to keep a clean cutting board, clean desk, clean mind. Oh, that reminds me, we haven't had a taste of Bee Block Chardonnay in a while. I think we should. And we're going to drop our tofu into our cornstarch mixture. Let it hit on both sides. And then do what I do, which is kind of move the tofu back and forth in your hand to remove the excess cornstarch. So you've got something that is coated, but not like dripping in cornstarch, right? So you can mix that up and then just run it back and keep your fingers a little bit separated and just allow the extra cornstarch to go off your hands. And again, I would say just because, well, we did start later. We started 1:45, so the class is going to go a little bit longer, but we might finish by 5:45. So in order to do that, I'm only going to do half of my tofu so that we can, finish on time, and then you can certainly complete the rest at the end. So do enough pieces to give everybody at least a little sampling at the end of class, if that's the way. And put that tofu into your cornstarch and your seasoning mix. Again, you can add any kind of seasoning to that cornstarch if you would like, maybe some cumin. Next time, maybe again, a little onion powder if you don't like garlic. Even some 5-spice, take it into a different direction. But for this particular mix, the cashew nutritional yeast sauce, vegan sauce that we're doing, it's a real nice combination with a little garlic or onion powder. And save the extra for later. Hopefully it's not moist. Hopefully you've got the extra water off of it so that you can now just wash your hands and get ready for the next step. Okay, so I'm going to move. Let's see. Can I have the stove shot, Lucy?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how this transfers. Okay, so my pot's back here, and you'll notice it's still cooking. The thing is, we can't put the steam too much to the camera, or it may shut the camera. That's the one thing I know will shut the camera off. So I'm going to move this, the tofu over to here. And I've got a nonstick skillet. I actually have a cast iron skillet. This cast iron skillet, I do everything. It stays on my stove, and I use it as a nonstick skillet. This is where we do want a nonstick skillet, unlike when we're sauteing something to caramelize. A nonstick skillet is when we don't want things to stick. And unfortunately, a lot of people always use nonstick, but then you don't get into the beauty and benefit of caramelizing vegetables, deglazing pans. We're not going to do that in this series of classes. I think we probably did it in classes before, but realize that there is a need for both nonstick pans and pans that stick. And this is one of the instances where a nonstick skillet is what we're looking for. I'm going to use I've just got some regular vegetable oil that I'm going to be using. We want a high heat oil now. I wouldn't use an olive oil, extra virgin olive oil for this. I'm not trying to embark flavor on it here. I'm simply trying to get a crispy crust. So once my pan is hot, I'm going to add in my oil. Now, I also encourage you to get get some small pans, because if you have a large pan and I have to coat that all with oil, a lot of times I'm just wasting oil and heat and everything. So I can do things in batches, and that works perfectly fine. You don't need to use a big pan if you don't, if a small pan is actually much better suited for something like this. Whoop. Okay, so that's a couple things. That's our leeks and our pineapple, but we're going to just get our tofu moving here before we check into all those. So once your oil has a little, it's kind of shimmering and it's got a glossy tone, we know it's ready to put our tofu in. And I'm going to put them all in at once. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, this is just what I do. I don't usually write it on the recipe, is I'm going to sprinkle on a little salt onto my tofu while it's cooking. I'm going to look at my I'm going to look at my leeks, and they're looking pretty good. If anyone can see I don't want to put them too here.
Looking great.
Here. They've got a little bit of moisture left, so I'm going to try to reduce that down just a little bit more. And I'm also going to look at my pineapple. We're going to bring that up.
Oh boy.
Ooh, yeah, that's looking good. So now this is where that convection stove, where you would see more of the crispy crust. I'm starting to get a nice kind of crispiness on my pineapple. And that's what I want. I mean, I would like it to actually dry out a little bit. So actually, the person who asked about the convection oven, again, I'd like to know how that turns out. I'm going to flip my pineapple. And I'm going to give it a chance to mix together, you know, make sure it's all being basted well. Flip it over. Ooh, that's looking nice. And then I'm going to put that back in the oven. And again, if anybody came late, I have a few little pepper flakes in here because I just wanted to do that. And I'll put that back in the oven. And my leeks are pretty good. I'm going to show you my leeks down here. I've got a little bit of moisture left, but not too much. And that's what you want. So we'll turn those leeks off. And then I'm going to get ready to flip my tofu. Now the tofu, you want it to cook about 2, 3, 4 minutes, but it kind of depends on your stove, your pan, the amount of your heat. You want brown, you don't want black, and you're looking for that crispy crust. So I'm not timing it, but I'm assuming it's been about a minute, and I'm going to probably let it go about a minute longer. So now we're going to get ready to make our leek sauce. And to finish our dish, we've got about 15 minutes left of class. If you haven't washed your spinach yet, I encourage you to do it. I asked you to get Bloomsdale spinach because Bloomsdale spinach, which you can really only get in the farmer's market, is just this arrowhead spinach that has the most greatest flavor, and it's in season now. You'll find it in farmers markets. I didn't actually get to the farmers market today, so I just bought the spinach, not in a bag, but I bought the fresh spinach that that doesn't come in a bag. And actually that spinach has a lot more flavor, I find, too, than the stuff in the bag. I use the stuff in the bag because I don't want to wash it all the time. But for something like this, where the spinach is kind of part of the key, I would like to give it a little bit more attention. So I just washed the spinach, and we just got it sitting here on the side. I'm going to bring up my Vitamix to get ready for making our sauce. If you want to finish everything at once, what you can do to do that now is just have a pot of water that is boiling or simmering in the back to reheat your cooked pasta. So, when you get pasta in a restaurant, they most often, unless it's fresh, They do not cook you pasta. They cook pasta on Monday and they serve it, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday by simply reheating it in some boiling water. So, yeah, so a little pot of boiling water on the back now. My pasta's already cooked. And that's how you have a party with people, as you cook your pasta correctly, and then you drain it. And then when your guests come, oh, I'm talking too much. I got some little black here on the tofu, so that's not good. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Oh my Lordy. I hope these ones are good. Well, they're not the best. I glab it a little bit too much. Make sure you look at your tofu. I mean, it's okay. It's not actually, this one's probably the black one. The rest of them are okay. And I'm going to just turn my heat down so I don't do that again. I might take out the blackest ones. Crunch is what we like. If you're a bacon person, a lot of people want the burnt bacon. So I'm going to take out some of the black ones, but these are fine here. So again, about 2 minutes on each side, 2 to 3 minutes. It depends. And don't just blah, 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 because we got a couple things, cooking, we got all these things going on. We got something on the oven. We got 3 things on the stove. We got, a lot of stuff going on. And, it's really not the kind of time that you would take a glass of Neely Chardonnay Bee Block, but why not? All right. And that's actually probably going to go real fast on the other side. So I'm going to shut that off. I'm going to shut off my tofu, but you keep an eye. You're looking for light brown. And when your tofu is good, like anything that is sauteed in oil, your best bet is to transfer it over onto some paper towel. And then you can just either put that in the oven or keep it off to the side, covered in some aluminum foil, just to keep it hot. Right. So I'm just going to cover that up and put that on top of the stove. And then we'll move into our leek. Now I was blabbing and I used up all my moisture in my leeks, but that's okay because moisture I can always add, right? I can add it in the form of stock. I can add it in the form of wine. So that's not a problem, and it's not burnt or anything, so that's not a problem either. So let's transfer. Actually, let me see where y'all are. I want to see where y'all are before I move.
Where's everybody at?
Yeah, where is everybody at?
Where's everybody at?
What's everybody doing? I see a couple people looking at me and a couple people busy. So I think we're going to give it a minute, and I see some waves. We're going to give it just a minute or two. We got people doing stuff. So we'll let y'all kind of, take a little glass of wine, take a breather, wash your spinach if you haven't done that yet. In fact, a good thing to do now, if you, the thing about this dish is you can serve the spinach raw, or if you prefer to give your spinach a little bit of a, cooking, I'm going to take my cast iron skillet, pour out the oil that I have left from the tofu, and I'm just going to put my spinach into that pan to heat it up a little bit. You don't have to, because the hot sauce can actually heat the spinach, but it won't be like having it be cooked. So I'm going to actually wilt my spinach a little bit in the back, in the pan that I cooked my tofu with. Look at that beautiful spinach. So it's not Bloomsdale, but it's gorgeous. And it's a good reason to, sometimes buy the spinach that isn't in the bag.
Scallions, whatever they are, off.
Let that wilt. We've still got people going. I'm going to take another glass of Chardonnay, another sip of Chardonnay. And we're going to move, basically, the next move is to transfer your leeks and your cashews into your Cuisinart or your Vitamix, whatever you have. Now, again, a Vitamix is a tool. I don't like tons of tools in my kitchen. I have a small kitchen. It's perfect for teaching online classes. but it's not great for owning big amounts of equipment. So I'm kind of a pared down, don't have tons of equipment, but I do think that a Vitamix is a great thing to have because it gives us power that we just don't get from a Cuisinart, and we really don't get the space in a blender.
Laura, there was a
Yep.
question. I love Vitamix. And there was a question, did we take the pineapple out?
No, the pineapple we left in, we turned it over, but you're right. I'm going to cook it for about 10 more minutes.
So you flipped the pineapple.
I flipped the pineapple and now I'm going to cook it for, I'm going to put it on, I'm going to put the timer on for 8 minutes now. Yeah, we flipped the pineapple. And if you didn't flip it, just kind of look at it. If it looks like it's getting a little crispy along the sides, maybe too much, you can flip it. If you like that crispy look, you don't have to flip it. So kind of depends, it depends on, don't be all, just look at your pineapple right now. If you haven't done it yet, make sure that it's not burning. It shouldn't be burning, but you never know. You've got to pay attention to all this kind of stuff, just like the Zoom, and who knew that the link wouldn't work. Culinary is, that's what makes it exciting. You can never really know what you're going to end up with. It's definitely a feast for the senses. Let's put it that way. So when we get all these things baking and cooking and blending all at the same time, it can be a lot, but just consider it to be some opportunity for you to expand your brain capacity and learn how to, hold on to memory as we age. I think cooking is a good opportunity for us to, flex those brain muscles. And yeah.
Nice. So the goal with the pineapple is a little bit of gold.
I like a little crisp. I like a little bit of crisp
little
around it.
brown.
And again, this recipe you can do with oranges, you can do with strawberries, you can do with whatever, kiwis, do it with whatever fruit is in season. And of course, here we're trying to pick up the flavor of the Bee Block Chardonnay. With the Meyer lemons and the pineapples and the tropical fruits, as Tina was talking about earlier. What do I do with the extra broth still in the pan? I think someone said if it's a lot, turn up the heat, let it boil down a little bit more. You might, you want a little bit of broth left at the end. If it's, if you've got about a couple tablespoons, just put it into your Cuisinart. So I've got my, and maybe you'll give me the overhead shot, Lucy. I've got my leeks in my Cuisinart, my Vitamix, and I'm going to put in my soaked cashews. And the reason why they say raw cashews, well, toasted cashew will be less creamy, and a whole cashew will be more creamy than a sliced cashew, which will simply lose moisture to the air. So your best bet is a whole raw cashew. And for everyone in this class who has access to Trader Joe's, I have to say Trader's really gives us the best prices on nuts, and they have high quality. And the reason why they did that is because they started, getting agreements with these growers years ago, before nuts were even popular, which is just funny to think that people didn't really eat nuts except for on Christmas cookies once a year. We know that nuts are great, good fats, and, eating a handful of nuts every day is very beneficial, not only for our hearts and our satisfaction, but also for our brains. I was just doing some writing for a company I write for, Epicurean Group, and this week's assignment is food's good for the brain. And, basically the science is starting to say that, the foods that are good for our heart that help us to, cut down on the high, bad HDL fats and cholesterol, the foods that are, monosaturated and polyunsaturated fats that are good for our heart, maybe the same things that are good for our brain. Surprise, no surprise.
Laura?
Yeah.
How much cashew are we supposed to have? Half a cup?
Half a cup. Half a cup.
Okay.
Oh, it's time to finish. And gosh, we are there. So I'm going to add to my cashew leek sauce the remaining ingredients. And that is a couple teaspoons, 2 to 3, but this is where your taste comes in, of lemon juice. So I'm going to add in about 2 teaspoons. It's always good to, err on the lighter end. You can always add more at the end. So about 2 teaspoons of lemon and about 1 to 2 tablespoons of something that we introduced to you last week called nutritional yeast.
Mhm.
This is the stuff that doesn't grow at the top of the beer. They actually grow it out of B vitamins, and it has a cheesy flavor to it. A cheesy flavor. We used to put it on popcorn in the 60s when people weren't having butter. So it's very buttery, cheesy. And if it's new to you, I would add 1 tablespoon. And if you think it might, your sauce at the end will need a little zing, you can add a little bit more.
How
But
much
it's about a tablespoon, maybe a little more, the nutritional yeast, and a couple teaspoons of lemon.
Mhm.
Now, you might also add, and it depends on kind of what happens, you might need a little bit of more moisture. And so you can add moisture in the way of stock or of Bee Block Chardonnay. Maybe I should add it from the bottle and not from my glass, right? Let's see. What happened to that Bee Block Chardonnay? A little bit. And then we're going to whirl this up. And it's going to be noisy here for a second, so I'm going to let y'all do your thing. I'm going to check in about a minute, 2 minutes. Start on low, go to high, check the moisture. Here we go. Okay. I already know I need more moisture. So I'm going to add in a little bit more of Bee Block Chardonnay and a little bit more stock.
Laura, your Vitamix is so quiet.
I'm going to look in and if I can get in. Boy, I locked that. Kind of check the consistency. Ooh, that looks good. Consistency looks nice. You want it to spread on pasta. Give it a little taste. Yum. I think that's great. I think I'm going to leave it just like that. So when you taste something, you want to taste and see if you can taste all the ingredients. So go with them in your head. Can I taste the leek? Can I taste the salt, the lemon juice, the nutritional yeast? Oh, that's our. So go through the things. Can I taste the pepper? Do I need to add any more of those things? I've got my hot water here in the back. I'm just going to turn that on for my pasta. I'm going to look at my I'm going to look at my yummy pineapple, and that's just looking fine. So I'm going to put that back in there, kind of keep it for a second, maybe. Well, maybe I'll take it out because I'm going to put some whipped cream on it, and I don't want that to melt. So I'm going to take my pineapple out. It looks really good. Little crispy around the edges. If you hear on the stove, you see my spinach has wilted kind of by its own merit. I did put a little bit of heat on it, but not too much. I've got my tofu that has absorbed the extra moisture, the extra oil, maybe a little on the crispy side. I could always flip it the other way, but it kind of depends. I mean, it's not too black, so I don't think that's too bad. And for my water, all I need to do is basically have it hot. I had already brought it to a boil. So I'm just, it doesn't have to be super hot. Basically I'm just reheating my cooked pasta. So again, for people who didn't hear, when you have a party, you can always cook your pasta beforehand. That's how restaurants do it. Then they just reheat it in a boiling water for a few minutes so that you don't have to is it al dente? Is it al dente, right? You can cook it to the exact right temperature you want the night before and then just reheat it. And then you don't have the stress of, is it good? Is it not good when it comes time to serve? So I'm going to drain my pasta. And just let that drain out a little bit. Oh, I'm going to remove my yummy. Oh yeah, a little bit again. I'm going to show that again. That looks nice. And again, I put a few red pepper flakes on it that aren't on the menu, but I just wanted to do that myself. And now we're going to plate. Okay, so yeah, we went about an hour. It's going to be maybe an hour, 10 minutes actually by the time we finish. So we are sorry for our classes are an hour and a half. And this particular class, of course, next week will be most likely on the hour and a half because we're going to actually bake bread within the class. So I'm just stacking my pasta, and then I can put on top my spinach. I'm going to pour on my sauce. I'll do that over on this side. If it's too thick, you can, maybe I might want to, I could let this, I could put a little bit more moisture in it just to make it easier to pour out. And then I'm going to stack my tofu on top of that. And of course, things are attractive not only in in odd numbers, but the eye is attracted to height. So if you can stack things up on top of each other, and of course with the sauce, it might be a little different. But the eye is attracted to height. And then with that little drizzle, that Meyer lemon drizzle, I'm going to add that. Yeah, we want the overhead shot. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of that Meyer lemon drizzle on top of the tofu to heighten it, give it a little bit more flavor, give it a little more zing. And then I'm going to garnish it with some green onions, which I had and actually I had some black olives. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of black olive to it. That's not on the recipe, but I just had some and I thought that would be a nice addition. And then let's plate up some pineapple. So with these classes, it's always fun to have a nice dish or two to serve in. And my pineapple, same kind of thing. I know I'm not doing this at this camera right now, but what I'm trying to do, I'll get a few here, is stack it up. And again, it's a little hot. So depending on how you want to serve it, I'm going to add some cream onto that, but that's nice. The cream will melt immediately. So when you want, if you don't want the cream to melt immediately, make sure you take the pineapple out, let it cool a little bit so that you'll have an opportunity if you do put on cream or ice cream or some of the vegan creams that are out there now. There's Oatly makes a delicious non-dairy ice cream, and there are all kinds of things out there now. Even, things like Cool Whip that's made non-dairy. There's so many products now that are out there. If you're trying to reduce your amount of meat consumption or dairy consumption, there's really a lot more out there for you to try. And I encourage you to try new things. You never know. You might find something that you really like that you were just totally blown away with. But let me top it with a little bit of cream. Oh, and we've got those honey sesame cashews, which of course, when I went to Trader Joe's, they did not have. So what I did, the honey, you can put the honey sesame cashews at Trader Joe's are great. I put them in the freezer and then they become addictive. So they didn't have any when I went to Trader Joe's this time, but you know what I did? I ate most of the nuts we made last week. I just sat down one night and just sat there and ate them. Bad on me. But the few I had left, I put in the freezer. So we made, for anybody who wasn't here last week, we made candied nuts, a really easy, simple recipe. And I just put those candied nuts into the freezer. And the reason why you might do this is because putting them in the freezer makes them, same thing with the honey sesame cashews. It doesn't freeze them, but it heightens them somehow. And it really makes the chew even I swear it makes it addictive. I hate to say it. So that's what I'm using tonight because I couldn't find the honey sesame cashews and I ate all my honey sesame cashews the last time I put them in the freezer. So now I just took some of the last few nuts I had left from last week that I didn't eat and I put them in the freezer and they just become like crispy, crunchy. For the freezing adds another addition to it. So yeah, so here we have for you, and I want to walk over and see where you guys are. I have my pasta with my Meyer lemon tofu. I have spinach and my cashew leek cream sauce. And then I garnished mine with a little bit of green onion that I had in the refrigerator and some black olive. And then here is my pineapple that's still steaming. With some whipped cream and some of frozen nuts that we made last week. So let me see what you're doing now.
Looks amazing. Anybody have anything they want to share?
Oh yeah, we want to take a group shot, don't we? If we can. We want to take a group shot. Oh, we got some pineapple.
So we're not finishing because we have another half an hour to eat, but we made the sauce, which is delicious. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Vitamix.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it all together later. The tofu is delicious. Everything is delicious.
Yeah, where's my glass of wine? That's my sample plate. I'm gonna do a little non-sample plate here in the background where I'm going to try some of the pasta with the sauce and the wine, which I know goes well. And see how this goes. Now, Bee Block Chardonnay, of course, is an easy wine to pair with. There are a lot of things you can pair with Bee Block Chardonnay, but we wanted to try, something vegan just because the trend is there. And so I think it was Tina that mentioned Cashew. And again, this has kind of gotten thicker now. So a little bit more moisture would be good to the sauce because it can pour. So if it doesn't pour, you just add stock or Neely Chardonnay. To introduce some new things was our goal, to introduce some vegan dishes and to just kind of experiment with the idea of the Bee Block with these foods.
So Laura, it's Tina. I think that when we were talking about flavors, long before we even got into recipes, we were talking about how the wonderful acid in the Neely Chardonnays works really well with creamy things. And then we got into the whole vegan conversation and started talking about cashew cream sauces. So that was kind of the impetus of, how we came up with going down this path, or how Laura did. The acid does really well with cream, and whether that's a creamy brie and high dairy or a creamy cashew cream sauce, that was where we were coming from.
Okay, and let's try the pineapple too. Oh, it's hot.
Laura, we cooked it. I think I'm unmuted. Yeah. We cooked everything up, but we're not eating quite yet. But when we get our pasta with tofu and cashew cream sauce done, we'll take photos and send them.
Oh, good. We're so glad. Yeah, if anybody wants to take some photos and send us to it, and you might find yourself featured on the next email list. Oh, wow. Somebody's got some good stuff going there.
Yep, we got it all. Got it up. Nice
Take
job.
some screenshots.
The missing spinach got loose, but otherwise it looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and the pineapple is strong. So I mean,
Well, another
yeah,
beautiful.
wow.
Beautiful.
With a little bit of cream also kind of mellows out the strongness of the pineapple and gives us that same ability to be able to match acid and cream with Bee Block. I don't want to touch that because I want to take a couple pictures. So
Mark,
mixing
nice
acid
job.
and cream.
I see Jack. I see Mark.
Mm.
Did you cook it, Margaret?
I have those on the
What?
have the audio.
Have you? Oh,
Whoa.
Margaret, let's see you again.
you're muted, Margaret.
Woohoo!
Hey.
I've been eating it, so you can't really, it doesn't look so.
Very nice.
And you have it in a bowl too.
Yep, I put it in a pasta bowl.
Yeah.
Take some photos before it's all gone.
We're working off a toaster oven on our front porch and an induction unit in our kitchen because our remodel's not done, so we're a little behind schedule, but we'll get there.
I
kitchen
love
looks
that.
good.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I love that. That is so fantastic. Anybody else want to share what they got out there? Do we want to take a group shot, Lucy? Should we ask everyone to come and take a little group shot, or maybe we?
Sure.
Yeah. So if
All right.
everybody wants to show up and just kind of show your cute face, we'll take a group shot of everybody on the screen Zoom. So you got to we got to spotlight all of us.
Bunch of tofu.
We have ingredients.
Spotlight everybody.
Oh, here we go.
I'm just gallery. Okay, everybody show me what you got. Show me your smiles. Vegan for the masses. We are the masses. Thank you. Cheers,
Cheers.
everybody.
Cheers, everybody. What a pleasure. So pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. So much fun.
Thank you so much. We loved it. Can't wait to eat it now.
Thanks so much. It's all delicious.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, hey, okay. Well, one last thing is next week you can choose either lamb or tempeh. I don't have any tempeh today, but you can buy it at Bianchini's or Trader Joe's. It's made of soy, or you can do lamb. So if you do both, you might find yourself not able to keep up with class. So you might choose one or the other. And if you choose to do lamb and you want to eat closer to the end of class, you're going to need to pre-cook the lamb, and we will send you that. We're going to send you the recipes tomorrow. So if you don't pre-cook the lamb, you'll just it'll cook during class, and then you'll have to do the next step. It'll take you another half hour after class. We definitely want to get some yeast for our bread, just regular old yeast that comes in the store in these packages. And another thing that really goes well with this particular dish because of the lemon kick is something we're going to make next week, which is preserved lemons. So preserved lemons are basically lemons that would have been salted and cured. I make a very simple recipe. I just stuff them in a jar, basically. These have been curing since last year. They won't be ready for your Moroccan dish next week, but you can always make preserved lemons tomorrow if you want to, or the next day, or we'll make them in class next week. And preserved lemons go really well with this dish because this dish is so creamy that having a little either fresh lemon juice squeezed on top or preserved lemons, kind of cuts through the cashews and makes it great and really fits in well with the Bee Block.
Mhm.
And suddenly
Any
we have
questions?
lemons on our lemon bushes.
Oh my God, yeah, I was just driving by somewhere today. There were so many lemons, people. I forget where I was today. Somewhere in Portola Valley. Tis the season for lemons, and yeah, we're going to make some preserved lemons next week. We'll make bread. Ooh, I like that pineapple. We're gonna make either Moroccan lamb or tempeh tangine and a whole grain couscous. So it'll be a fun class, and we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you, Laura.
Cheers.
Good night,
Hey.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bon appetit.